What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Street Football Channel, and welcome to another 2020 college football schedule breakdown and record prediction video. Today, I'll be doing my first non-Power 5 team. I'll be doing UCF. UCF has been one of the best American athletic teams in recent history. A few years ago, they were even undefeated in the regular season, but lost in their bowl game. But they have been very good recently. They were pretty good again last year. And it's definitely a talented team. They really are not losing too much compared to some other teams this season, and they could actually be pretty good. So at the moment, their two quarterbacks are Gabriel Dillon and Daryl Mack. Those were their quarterbacks last season, who were pretty good. But they also have McKenzie Milton. McKenzie Milton, a few years ago, I believe, the year that UCF went undefeated in their bowl game, I believe, he went down with a pretty serious injury. I believe it was a torn ACL. And he missed the entire last season. But there's a possibility he returns this year. He was very, very good for them that year they went undefeated. And if he comes back, they could be seriously someone to look out for. Gabriel Dillon and Daryl Mack, I think, could also be good. I think Gabriel Dillon could actually be a really good quarterback as well. But if they can bring back McKenzie Milton, they have definitely the potential to be a very good football team. Their running back is Greg McCray, who I think is actually a pretty good running back. They don't have too tough a schedule. They have some games that some people might not expect them to have trouble with, that they might have trouble with, but I think it will be a pretty good season for UCF. Now let's get into looking at their schedule. They went 10-3 last season. Like I said, good. It was obviously not as good as the year before that, but it was so good. And then they were recruited the 74th best class in the country. Not great. That is not great, but they are returning a pretty good amount of talent. So that really shouldn't bother them too much, at least for this season. Week 1, they have one of their toughest games of the season already against North Carolina. North Carolina is a very good football team. It is a home game for UCF. Think Carolina is a very good football team. And this game is very interesting to me because if McKenzie Milton, if he is back by this, I think he will probably be back this season. But I'm not sure if he'll be back by week 1. If he's back by week 1, we're probably going to see some sloppy play from him, having not played the entirety of last season, having been injured for a very long time. So I think that UCF would really have to rely on their run game and their defense against North Carolina. And I don't know how well their defense would play against North Carolina's stacked offense. It's definitely one of the best in the ACC, maybe even one of the best in the country. Sam Howell is a Heisman contender. They just have lots of talent on that team for North Carolina. So I think they're really going to have to focus more on the run game for that game. Maybe a bit passing later once if McKenzie Milton is playing. Once he's in like maybe the third or the fourth quarter, he'll get more back into the game. If Gabriel Dillon starts this game, I think McKenzie Milton is a better quarterback than Gabriel Dillon. But personally, I think if Gabriel Dillon started this game, that would have a better chance to win. Because McKenzie Milton's playing, if he returns this game, coming off a very big injury and playing a tough team, that's not going to be good. So I would say that Gabriel Dillon would be the best choice in this game, and then let McKenzie Milton come in an easier game. This is going to be a fun game, honestly. This is going to be a really interesting one. I do think UCF has the edge. I think North Carolina is the better football team, but UCF is the home team, and they still definitely are very talented, which is why I think that they could win. But this is going to be a very, very fun game, and I'm very excited for it. Week 2, they play FIU at home once again. This one shouldn't be too hard. FIU isn't terrible, but they're not that good either. Maybe this is where they bring McKenzie Milton in if they don't play him in week 1, or maybe they just wait a bit more until they're sure he's fully healthy. Or maybe he just doesn't play at all. I think that UCF definitely is better than FIU, and they are the home team. I don't think they should have too much of a problem in this game. I don't think they're just going to absolutely destroy FIU. I think FIU will be able to put up some points, but UCF is the better team. UCF is the home team. I'm taking UCF in this one, I think. Week 3, they have a very interesting game. It's at Georgia Tech. Personally, I would say Georgia Tech is one of the worst teams in the ACC, potentially even the worst team in the ACC. But I could actually seriously see Georgia Tech putting up a fight because Georgia Tech is not terrible. Obviously, they're not great either, but they're not that terrible. And I could actually see Georgia Tech putting up a fight because Georgia Tech is the home team for this game, which is why it's very, very interesting. Because I do believe UCF is definitely the better football team. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think UCF could have some trouble on the road in this game. I am still leaning towards UCF, but this should actually be a pretty interesting game if I'm honest. And I could seriously see Georgia Tech putting up a good fight and maybe even surprising UCF in this game. Week 4 they have another road game, but it's a pretty easy one. It's at conference rivals, American athletic rivals, East Carolina. East Carolina is probably one of the least known teams in college football. And they are in the American Athletic, obviously not the most known conference, but still, some college football fans don't even know this team exists, if I'm honest. And they're not that good, really. I really don't even see UCF having that much of a problem in this game, even though they are on the road. Maybe this is where McKenzie Milton returns, because it's really going to be interesting to see how they decide to play it out with McKenzie Milton. If he's allowed to come back, do they put him in week 1? Do they let him rest until he's fully healthy? Do they let him rest till an easier game that he can get back into it? It's really interesting to me, and I'm going to be very excited to see how that happens. But no matter who's the quarterback for UCF this season, whether it be Gabriel Dillon, McKenzie Milton, or even Daryl Mack, I really don't see them having much of a problem on the road against East Carolina. I think this should be a win. Week 5, they have an interesting game. It's against Tulsa. Tulsa isn't terrible, but I don't think Tulsa is going to be that good this season. UCF is the home team for this one, and it does look like UCF is definitely the better team than Tulsa. They are at home. I think it'll be a bit closer than some people expect, probably closer than the FIU game, maybe even closer than the Georgia Tech game or the East Carolina game. But I really don't see UCF having too much of a problem in this game. I think they'll probably win. Then they have a bye week. This is an interesting place bye. It's not terrible, but it's not necessarily great either. One thing that's good about this bye is it is going into one of their tougher games of the season, which I'll get into in a minute. But it's an okay place for a bye. You're coming off 5 games. Obviously, it might be a bit too early. It's not too late. It might be a bit too early, but it's not a terrible place bye. Week 7, though, they have one of their toughest games of the season. I would say this is their toughest game of the season. It's at Memphis. Memphis is not their toughest opponent on the schedule. I do think that's true. But they are on the road, and their 2 other really tough games are not on the road for. One of them being North Carolina, and the other I'll get to later. But this is one of their seriously toughest games of the season, in my opinion. Memphis is losing a lot, including head coach Mike Norvell. But they are still a good football team. They should still contend in the American Athletic this season. Not sure if they'll be ranked, but they are still a very good football team, even without Mike Norvell. They're probably going to be worse than last year. I think that's pretty safe to say, but they should be pretty good anyway. This is going to be an interesting one. UCF is on the road, which is why I think Memphis has a really good shot at winning this one, but UCF is the better team, which is why UCF also has a really good shot at winning this one. Very interesting game. It's going to be fun to watch. I am leaning towards Memphis, actually, because they're the home team, but I could see UCF winning. Week 8, they have not too tough a game. It's against Tulane. Tulane is similar to Tulsa with me, that they're not terrible, but I don't expect them to be that good this season. I just don't think that they're going to win as many games as some people might expect, or they're just not going to be great overall. Yeah, I think it should be a pretty easy one for UCF, being the home team, being the better team. I do think it should be a fairly easy win for UCF. Week 9, this might not be a fairly easy win. It's against Houston, who I think it's safe to say UCF is definitely better than Houston. But Houston is the home team for this one. Obviously, Houston's losing De'Ara King, but he didn't play that much for them last season anyway. But Houston's going to be a very interesting team to me. I could actually see them winning some games, potentially even against UCF because they're the home team. They definitely do have talent on that roster. It's not on the level as it is for UCF, but it's still a good roster. And they have potential to do some good things this season. I could see UCF having a serious challenge here in this one because just they're on the road. And Houston's a pretty tough team. Week 10, though, they should have no problem. It's against Florida A&M at home. no problem here. I don't think so at all. I think this is an easy win. Probably one of their easiest of the season. Being at home, being against Florida A&M, probably their worst opponent. That's an easy win. Week 11 is interesting. Interesting one. Temple. I think Temple can be pretty good this season. It's just going to be tough for them to beat UCF. I think UCF will be better than Temple, and UCF is the home team. So I think Temple might be able to put up a fight. Temple might be good this season, but I can't really see them winning this one. Week 12 is a very, very interesting one, and it's probably the best in-conference game in the American Athletic this season. Cincinnati versus UCF. This is going to be such a fun game. Cincinnati, I would say, is the best team in the American Athletic. But I could also I could also say that UCF is the best team in the American Athletic. I believe they're in the same division as well, which is why this game could be important. Or no, they're no longer divisions in the American Athletic, but I believe they were in the same division. But obviously, the American Athletic got rid of the divisions after UConn's exit. But this should be a seriously interesting game. Two best teams in the American Athletic. I think that's safe to say. Maybe you could make an argument that Memphis is there too, but I think Memphis is losing too much. But this is going to be an interesting one. Two teams that I think will probably be ranked this year. Cincinnati was very good last year. I think they'll probably even get better this season. They're not losing too much, if I'm remembering correctly. UCF is the home team for this one, which could be seriously important. But this is going to be a fun game. I'm very excited for this one. McKenzie Milton is probably back at this point unless he misses the whole season. It's going to be a fun one. It really should be a fun one. It's going to be an important one. It's going to be close. I do not know who will win. And then week 13, they have not too tough one. It's on the road, but it's against USF. USF was good a few years ago, but kind of fell off last year. Only won, I believe, 4 games. So I don't think there's any reason why USF is going to be good this year. I really don't see UCF having too much of a problem. Maybe USF can put up a few points, but UCF should win this one. Now, as I always do, I'll go through each game once again, and I'll give my predictions for who I believe will win. Week 1, North Carolina. I think I'm going to take UCF in this one. It's going to be close. It's going to be fun to watch, but I'm going to take UCF. I'll take UCF against FIU as well. And I will take them against Georgia Tech. I could see them actually losing to Georgia Tech, but I'm going to take them in this one. I'll take I think they'll win against East Carolina, Tulsa. Then they have their bye week, and I'm going to take Memphis in week 7. I think UCF is better than Memphis, but Memphis is still a good football team, and Memphis is the home team for this one, so I'm going to take Memphis. I think they'll beat Tulane. I think they can beat Houston. I think it'll probably be close, but I think they can beat Houston. Then they have Florida A&M. That should be an easy win. Then they got Temple. I think they will win that one. Cincinnati, I think they're going to lose there. I think that Cincinnati is the better team, and even though they're at home, I think that Cincinnati will get the win in that one. And then I think they'll beat USF to end the season to have a record of 10-2. So UCF could definitely be better than this, I think. Potentially even undefeated again. I think that's going to be tough. But their schedule isn't that hard. I think worst case probably 5 losses, which would be the 2 I had. North Carolina, probably at Houston, and probably at Georgia Tech as well. Those would probably be, that would be worst case, I think, in my opinion, 5 losses against those teams. I originally actually had them beating Cincinnati and going 11-1, but I did eventually have them going 10-2, because I just think it's a safer bet. I don't think necessarily they'll lose to Cincinnati. I just think that they will lose 2 games, and if there's going to be another game they lose this season, it'll either be against Cincinnati or North Carolina, in my opinion. They could lose to North Carolina. That's a possibility. They could even beat Memphis. I think they could beat Memphis, then lose to Cincinnati and North Carolina. Maybe they only lose to North Carolina. It's a very interesting schedule, very interesting team overall for UCF. I'm hoping that McKenzie Milton can be healthy and come back this season because he was so good a few years ago, and it's going to be really fun to watch him this season. Even though I'm not a UCF fan, that would be very fun to watch. But those are my thoughts on UCF. What are your guys' thoughts on UCF? Tell me in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe for more daily NFL and college football content. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.